Hey everyone, welcome to the Time Boss Weekly Operating System Masterclass. I am so excited that you are joining today. Really excited to get into this content and see how we can help you make massive progress on whatever's going on in your world without impacting your mental health. I'm Andrew Hartman. I am the founder and coach at Time Boss, and I am excited to get into this content today. Before we get started, I want you to think why you're here today. So, could be because of stress and anxiety, could be because you're always feeling behind, constant procrastination, you're not contributing to the level you want to, you're worried what your boss or teammates think of you, you're always stuck putting out fires. I want you to center for a second and just think about why you're here and really zero in on that because I want to help you with whatever reason why you are showing up today. So give that a thought for a second and lock that in. Really think about that deeply. Here's my goal of the masterclass. Here's what we're trying to accomplish today. I want each of you to find your highest sustainable pace. That means that you can go as hard as you can for as long as you can, right? So you're where burnout is no longer an option. Another one of my goals is that no one here attending ever burns out again. That you find an operating system that allows you to contribute the way you want to contribute, that allows you to make the impact that you want to make without requiring stress, fear, anxiety that ultimately leads to burnout. Big things that we're focused on. How can we eliminate your overwhelm today? How can we increase your focus? How can we reduce your stress, crush your priorities, and ultimately lock in habits for life? We're going to talk quite a bit about habits today. There's nothing gimmicky here. We are skipping all gimmicks, all hacks. This is about habits that you can lean into to make massive impact in your life without sacrificing your mental health. So here is my ask of you as we get started. I would like you to please power down anything that you currently have in front of you, obviously besides whatever device you're watching this masterclass on. I want you to be able to be fully focused. This operating system, what we're going to look at today, fundamentally changed my life. I'm about to tell you my story and tell you where I came from. I came from a pretty dark place. This fundamentally changed my life. And my question for you is, what is possible for you if you pay close attention for 90 minutes? I'm just asking for 90 minutes of your time, maybe even less if you cut out on the questions. But I think that requires you to be fully present. Shut your email inbox, turn off your notifications. Just be present here with me. That is my strong ask of you. And I think that something big is possible for you if you do that. So I'm going to keep going, but I would ask that you do that while we get into it. All right. Well, let me introduce a little bit about myself. Again, Andrew Hartman, founder at Coach and Time Boss. This is my family here on the left. You can see Kelly. She's the executive director of Time Boss and my amazing wife. She's also in the chat today, so you might be interacting with her throughout the course of the masterclass. That's Luke and Emma between Kelly and I. Emma's 16, Luke's 13. I love this picture. It just makes me smile anytime I see it. So they are absolutely my pride and joy. I want to tell you a little bit about my last 12 months. And I say this with all humility because I'm about to tell you where I came from. So this is more of a gratitude to the Time Boss operating system that I list this out and not any accolades for me because I definitely came from a rough spot. Last 12 months, I've been fractional COO for a few organizations and where I've been leading the operations of those organizations. I've launched two SaaS platforms. SaaS is software as a service, so really complicated platforms, software technology requiring customer service, platform operations, marketing, software engineers, all the things. So quite a bit of complicated things. Launched Time Boss. So we got that up and out the door last April. I wrote a book with my daughter, created a board game with my son. Didn't lead, went on two house building trips through my church, led a ministry at our church to support at-risk youth. And I've been at every kid's sporting event over this last year. Again, I say this with total humility. This is not bragging, much more to help you understand what's possible with this operating system. Because where I came from is I was a key leader 15 years ago when this whole thing started. I was a key leader supporting visionaries. If you know anything about visionaries, they are idea people and they're constantly pushing ideas. I could not handle the sheer amount of things coming at me, and I was utterly lost in stress, anxiety, multiple burnouts, burnt out multiple times over the course of my career. The last major flameout was in 2016, which ultimately led to where we are today. At one time, it was so bad, I was so fried that I lost my sense of smell for 6 months. This is pre-COVID, lost my sense of smell for 6 months. Kelly and I and our family were foodies. We love to eat, so you can imagine the pain of losing your sense of smell. But the stress was that bad. It was just that much on top of me. And here's the deal. Nobody was coming to help. So what you are about to see is based off 15 years of iterations of me just trying to figure it out. I was hit by so many sticks in the process. We'll talk about the weekly planning meeting today. I've literally run this thing 700 times and iterated on it. And my hope is that I can help you benefit from the sticks I've been hit with so you can shortcut them and avoid them. We are about to get in to quite a bit of content, and it's going to be jam-packed today. My conviction is to provide value to you. I want you to have all the information about Time Boss, and you're probably going to have questions. Kelly is going to be in the chat throughout the course of the experience. Also, there's a Q&A button. Feel free to drop in questions. She'll be interacting with you. We'll have a couple key stops in the process where would love to get your take on or your questions, and I want to make sure that we get those answered to make sure we do that. So as we jump in, I want to start with a poll. Would love to get your take on this question. What are your biggest challenges with time management? Should see on the screen now. I'll give you a second to answer. Would love to just understand where people are at as we're interacting today. What are the big challenges when it comes to time management? Go ahead and toss that in. Yeah, see a couple overwhelmed by emails, constantly interrupted, always put out fires. Too much to do, not enough time. Yes, I get it. Overcommitted. Yes. Everything feels urgent, hard to prioritize. Oh man, I feel that so deeply. Constantly task switching. All right. We've got we've got some spears in the chest today. I'm here for it. I am absolutely here for it. Super helpful. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you giving me a sense of where you're at. Let's keep rolling. Here's the deal. Burnout is another epidemic. So 75% of workers report feeling burnt out. That means that 3 out of every 4 people on this call are either burnt out, have burnt out, or are on their way to burning out. That is an absolute epidemic. We have allowed stress, fear, and anxiety to become the tax of the results that we're getting. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be that way. That's what we're going to get into today. And here's the problem. None of our tools are helping us. So 3 out of 5 people. So if 3 out of 4 people are on their way to burnout or have burnt out or are burning out, 3 of 5 people feel overwhelmed by their to-do list. That's ridiculous. Our tools aren't even helping us get the things done. We all think we're supposed to have to-do lists, but they're not actually helping us feel less overwhelmed or helping us make things happen. And the challenge is it actually leads us to waste even more time. When we feel stressed, when we feel fear, when we feel anxiety, we start task switching because there's too much coming at us. There's more to get done than we have time to do. So we task switch. And the challenge is this, as we task switch, it actually builds up this chemical residue in our brain that makes us feel even more overwhelmed, which leads to as much as 40% of our productive day being lost. Each day, 40%. I mean, if you were a business owner or a founder or a team member, I mean, you might as well just light dollar bills on fire. Like, it's just so much time that's being wasted by what we're doing here. So let me break down why this is. So each of us has a pretty good idea, or we think we have a good idea of what we think is possible in a day. And for most of us, if we've never been trained, it's pretty amorphous. It's really based off emotion. We don't have a ton of science behind it, but we think a day is about this much work. Here's the problem. We are generally terrible, unless we've done the work, to understand our actual capacity. So what happens is this is your actual capacity, these blue squares, and you have these other squares left over where you were never going to get to those anyways. So when you add them to your list, they were already never going to be accomplished. And the problem is that when they don't get accomplished, that creates anxiety. We tell ourselves a story that we're behind, we're not doing enough, and I didn't get those tasks done today. I wish I could have got them done. So we're literally creating anxiety for ourselves. It gets even worse when we go to the next day, because what we do is we take those 3 things we didn't get done, we jam them into tomorrow, and we don't fix our capacity. So we literally run the same playbook again. And we're left with things that we were never going to get to anyways, and they're just left undone. And that creates a feeling of overwhelm, right? And when we feel overwhelmed, we seek solutions. Nobody wants to feel overwhelmed. You're here because you feel overwhelmed. You probably joined this class today or this master class because you have a lot going on, where you're trying to get things accomplished. There's too much coming at you, or you can't get out of your own way. Whatever it is, we go seek solutions. And the problem is we find hacks. If you go scroll LinkedIn, there are a million people that would love to tell you how to solve time. And hack is a strong term. I mean it in the phrase of a life hack, the shortcut. What's the quick way for me to get this done? And the problem is it just doesn't work that way with time. It's not that easy. And so you have things like hack you might hear is focus on 3 things a day, right? Bullet Journal has made this famous. A number of different programs will make this famous. You search it on LinkedIn right now, you'll find 3 people saying it. If we just focus on 3 things a day, you're more likely to complete them. That is absolutely true. This hack is not a lie. The problem is there's no plan for the things that don't fit. So we may say yes to these 3 things, but we feel the 20 things we're saying no to, and they just sit there on our brain. We don't actually know when we're going to get them done, so they don't go anywhere. Also, we have no plan to retrain our key relationships. So you may focus on 3 and your boss is like, hey, buddy, I got 5 more I need you to tackle. So there's no retraining of relationships there. And so without a plan, you might end up task switching, right? So you're heading to email, which just creates more anxiety. So again, a well-intentioned hack, but it doesn't solve the problem. Or calendar block. I'm going to show you today how to calendar block. I am such a deep believer in calendar blocking. You should be adding your to-do list to your calendar to make sure you have a plan to complete items. The problem is, if it's not a whole cohesive solution, you have no plan for interruptions. So when people start coming for your time and it upends your schedule, what do? You don't have a plan to contend with priority changes. So interweek, if something changes, how are you going to navigate that without events just stacking on top of each other? And again, no plans for things that don't fit. You may block your whole calendar. You may have 20 things left over, and those things are just going to be stress for you if you don't have a plan for the things that don't fit. Again, a well-intentioned hack, but a half solution. Finally, the Pomodoro method. This one's fun. Focus just for 25 minutes and then take 5-minute breaks. Super. Total believer in just doing one thing and being super focused. Again, it doesn't account for the things that don't fit, and it doesn't account for capacity. How do you actually know you're going to get done with the things you need to get done, that you're going to achieve the commitments that you've committed to? All of these hacks are well-intentioned, but they are all incomplete solutions. And here's the challenge. If you do this long enough, without a true solution, you are going to burn out. Maybe you're kind of here right now. I'm going to tell you, if you don't solve this, there are only more expectations coming for you, right? There are only more people coming to interrupt you and tell you their priorities. You have to have a complete system to deal with this, or otherwise you will eventually lead to burnout. And here's the risk of burnout. When we burn out, that means we're tapping at 110%, it's unsustainable, we burn out. We don't drop back to 95%. We drop back to 60%, 50%. We quit jobs. We have to take significant mental health breaks. We take ourselves out of the game. So not only does it have obviously tremendous impacts on us as people, but it has impacts on the people that we care about, the teams that we're committed to, the contributions that we're trying to make. It is not sustainable. And again, there is another way. And that's why you're here today. I know that's why you're here today. That's what I want to keep talking about. So want to do another poll. Bear with me one sec while I get that pulled up. No pun intended. So let's do this poll. What are the hacks that you have tried? So got a couple on screen. We've got calendar blocking, focus on 3 things, Pomodoro method, the Eisenhower matrix, inbox zero, work off the to-do list. Would love to hear what you've tried. Awesome, we got some calendar blockers. Focus on 3 things, yep. Work off a to-do list. Good old to-do list, right? Man, we were sold a bill of goods when people taught us how to use a to-do list without using a restaurant or without a full cohesive system. A to-do list is like handing an 18-year-old a credit card and not teaching them how to manage their money. It's just a half solution. Like it definitely has the ability to help, but oftentimes doesn't fully help. And you got to have a bigger solution. Super helpful. Thank you all. Appreciate that feedback. Here's the deal. You do not need another hack. You need a holistic time management operating system. That is why you're here today. And that is what I want to help you get through. Here's what happens, and here's what the Time Boss operating system is going to give you. This is what I want to walk us through today and give you in deep detail. One is you're going to work within your capacity. So you're going to have a really clear picture of what you can actually accomplish in a day. We're going to allow you to see that very clearly by the end of this time. 2, once you understand that, once you know what your capacity is, almost by rule, the things that are going to end up on your calendar, the things over here are going to be the most high impact tasks. If you put in the constraint that you are only going to work 40 hours or 30 hours or 60 hours, you choose, it's up to you. Once you do that, the logical thing is to put the things on your calendar that are going to have the highest impact. So you actually are prioritizing the highest impact items, which means you're going to have greater impact. Again, once you understand your capacity, Remember those orange tasks before. We're going to figure out what to do with the things that don't fit. We're going to look at delegating, deferring, digitizing, possibly even deleting if you have the authority to do so. And here's what you're going to get. When you deal with the things that don't fit and you have a plan for those things that you are confident in, you are going to get real rest and recovery, which means not only when you're focused, are you going to make a greater impact, but when you're off work, when you're no longer focused on that item, you're going to be able to rest and recover and even bring back a greater self when you go at it again. Again, it is a cohesive operating system. It's going to handle the ins and outs of your world related to time. And I'm really, really excited to show you. Here's the deal. You do this long enough with a true solution, something like Time Boss, something that's considering the whole picture of your world related to time, and you will find your highest sustainable pace. And you can see it just keeps going. I've been at this for multiple years now, no burnouts, the highest impact I've ever had. You saw what the last 12 months are. That's not because I'm a really smart person or a really hard worker or any of that. It's because I have a system that I fully lean into, and it allows me to make massive impact without treading on my mental health. And I am about to walk you through that entire thing. All right, we're about to get into it. Reminder, you can ask questions in the chat. Kelly's here to help facilitate. She'll be funneling those questions to me at a couple different breaks, and would love to answer your questions. If we don't get to your questions today, I'm happy to follow up with you directly and make sure you get your questions answered. So let's talk about what a time boss is. You joined a time boss masterclass. You may have talked to me before. You have an idea about time boss. Some of you may be like, what in the world is a time boss? It sounds cool, but I have no clue what it is. Here's what a time boss is. When you take time to plan and set your future self up to be successful, you are a time boss. Your future self then is responsible to make the plan happen. So you see what we're doing here. You are like a time boss of your future self. Think of your future self like an employee. It is an individual, a future version of you that doesn't have agency over the planning process, but is absolutely subject to whatever you do in terms of planning. And think about this. Imagine if you had your full week planned for you every hour. You knew exactly what you needed to focus on and what you needed to make happen. You also had margin for reality. So as things came in, this person had planned out everything for you, even to have margin to deal with the things that are crashing into your schedule. In addition, it was a clear plan. You knew exactly what the definition of done was. You knew at each hour of the day what needed to make happen and how to focus. And each of those items on your calendar were perfectly aligned to your goals and to your values. Imagine if you had that person. What a gift, right? You think about that and like, oh, someone give that person to me. Well, here's the deal, friend. You are 100% that for your future self, and you can be. It's all about ownership of your role as a time boss and saying, I am willing to plan on behalf of my future self and set them up to be successful. We're about to get in the weeds of it. All right. There are two very basic habits that I'm going to teach you today. One is the weekly planning meeting. Two is the daily review meeting. That's it. This is the whole kit and caboodle right here. These are the habits that have unlocked the life that I talked about earlier and have helped so many individuals just like me make massive progress without impacting their mental health. Now we're going to get into the details today. Kelly will drop in a link in the chat for calendar event templates, so you can actually add these directly to your calendar from the templates that she's provided. She just dropped it in now. And let me tell you a little bit about these. The weekly planning meeting is truly your time boss moment. It is where, prior to the beginning of your next work week, you are taking the time to plan on behalf of your future self. Now, even if you just add this to your calendar and you don't run it my way, this will necessarily improve your life. If you take a moment to think about your future self, think about their needs, and do anything on their behalf, it will be an improvement. So my strong recommendation to you is you put this weekly planning meeting calendar event on your calendar, make it recurring, and leave it there forever. It will necessarily improve your life. Again, prior to the beginning of your work week. I like to do mine Friday afternoons. You can choose anytime you'd like to. Then we're going to have a daily review meeting. Think of a daily review meeting of how you close down your day, how you end your day, how you stay committed to that plan your time boss created, how you make sure you're making in-flight adjustments to contend with reality. It takes 15 minutes, end of every workday. Truly, this will be a gift to you. This is how you get freedom outside of your work life. And so we're going to get into the details of that as well. Again, Kelly dropped in the templates. Feel free to hit that link, add them to your calendar, put them on recurring, and don't ever delete them. And they will necessarily make your life better. All right, we're going to start and get right into the weekly planning meeting. This is the first of the 2 time boss habits that I am so excited to share with you. Here's the agenda. And what we're about to get into is going to be very detailed. That's why it's a masterclass. Let me say this to you. If I was going to teach you how to tie your shoe, and you had never tied your shoe before, it would be a very detailed process. It would be a very long document with lots of steps in it. Now you tie your shoe and you don't even think about it. You tie your shoe while you're having conversations. You tie your shoe while you talk to people on the phone. Again, this is a new habit. There's going to be detailed steps to it, but it's going to help you get those unlocks that we've been talking about. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're committed to. So we'll start at the top. Anytime you do a weekly planning meeting, you're going to reflect on your week. Keep, start, stop. We'll talk about the details of that in a second, but it's all about reflecting and then course correcting. Next, we're going to dump what needs to be done. I'll show you in great detail. We're just getting everything out of your head. We want nothing in your head, everything in the system to allow you to prioritize. Next, we're going to decide what to do. So once we get things out of your head and into a system, now we're going to figure out what we're actually going to work on. What are the actual priorities? What actually matters? We're going to do the work to figure out what that is. Next, we're going to decide when to do it. Once we understand what the priority is, now we're going to get it to your calendar. Because once it's prioritized, we just need to knock those things out in order. Next, we're going to decide what to do with what doesn't fit. And candidly, this is where most people fail. They have a good plan. They don't contend with the things that they don't have time for. And then those things just creep back and they crush their plan or they break the plan. And then finally, we're going to commit to the plan. As we get to that, you'll see so much of this comes down to your commitment, to you saying, this is the thing that I'm willing to do and I'm willing to spend my time on. All right, so we'll start with reflect on your week. If you've ever done any type of software development process, you've probably done a retro, or maybe in other areas of life, you've probably done a retro as well. And it's very simple. So when you kick off your weekly planning meeting, I just want you to take a moment, and you can put this in your journal, put it anywhere you like, and ask 3 questions. What should I keep doing? What worked this week that we should 100% keep doing? Maybe it's having a weekly planning meeting. I should keep having a weekly planning meeting. That worked. What should I start doing? Man, you know what? This week, I didn't have dedicated time where I was time blocking to check my email. Next week, I'm going to have dedicated time to start checking my email. Great. What should you start doing? How can you improve? And what should I stop doing? Oh my goodness. I left Slack and Teams open all day long and I got bombarded with notifications. I was distracted. I'm going to figure out how to manage my notifications this week. I'm going to stop being fully available to everyone in my world. Perfect. I did that very quickly, but you'll see just this step alone, this is how you make 1% course corrections, and over the course of week after week after week, how you make massive change. This is literally what I did across 700 plus weekly planning meetings the past 15 years to get me what I'm showing you today. It was just tiny iterations, learning how I work, and then ultimately learning how other people function as well to come up with simple rules that we're looking at today. But again, I would just strongly recommend, if you do nothing else, add this as a practice for you on a weekly basis. Easy step. On to the next one. Dump what needs to be done. Okay. This one you might love or you might hate. We'll talk about the details why in a second. But let me start with the big idea. Actually, just give you a really clear direction on what we're doing. We're adding any new one-off tasks to your backlog, and I'm about to show you exactly what that means. Here's the big idea. I want you to be able to do just one thing at a time. And that, if you are coming in and you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of things in your world, my guess is that feels amazing. And here's why. We walk around, this is you over here, maybe it's you over here, maybe not, but for a lot of us, we walk around with every task in the world in our head. Did I reply to that email? My CEO needs a report. I just got a Slack Teams notification. What about my budget? Am I on budget? Is that project going to make it on task? Oh, shoot, I didn't hear back from that person. There's so many things swimming around in our head. And the reality is that's what increases our overwhelm. That's what increases our anxiety, because we're trying to keep track of all those things at a time. And we don't actually multitask. We're really just rapidly oscillating between multiple tasks, which ultimately leads us to feel more stressed. What we want to get to is you working on one task at a time where you can be fully focused on it, and then you have a system that's holding the rest of it. That's the goal. You work on one thing, the system holds the rest. So let's get into how we do that. We're going to create what's called a backlog. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second, but let's start with what should go in the backlog. Any one-off tasks that takes up brain space. Literally, if we come back here, anything that's in there. So literally anything you can think of, any one-off task, and it's going to compete for your time. Meaning we're kind of focusing in for work for the purposes of Masterclass. Let's say you're dedicating 20 hours or 40 hours or 60 hours or whatever you're choosing to dedicate to work next week. It's anything that's going to compete in that time space. So anything. And those can include planning projects. Hey, I need to plan out a project. I need to plan future work. I need to plan out Q2, anything like that. Project work, things you've been assigned in any project management tool you have, any project you're responsible for. If you do EOS, maybe it's a rock this quarter or a key result or something like that. Creative work. Maybe you need to brainstorm. Maybe you need to plan out design work. Maybe you need to do a creative exploration related to something. Requests from a client, things that they need. They need reports. They need follow-ups. They need proposals, anything like that. Meeting follow-up tasks. I came out of a meeting and I was assigned 3 things. We've all been on meetings where those things go to die on follow-up actions. Your backlog is going to be a place for you to put those things. Research. Maybe you need to get ahead of something. You need to be figuring out what to do with AI. That'll be a thing that's on my list. Just get it to your backlog. And heavy emails. We all know what a heavy email is. You probably have a heavy email in your inbox right now. It's that email where you see the subject line and you don't want to open it. You don't know how to respond to it. You know it's going to take a ton of research and it just sits in your inbox. And every time you look at it, it's adding stress again. Get those things to your backlog and we'll talk about what to do with them. Here's not what not to include because we're going to find a place for these things later. Don't put recurring tasks there. We're going to have a plan for recurring tasks like reporting or meetings or one-on-ones or anything like that. Those will be taken care of. Don't put every email in there. We don't want to overwhelm the system with tiny little tasks. Your email will be covered by the system. Don't worry about that. You'll be in good shape. And don't put in small tasks. We will have room for small tasks. We'll talk about what to do with them, but don't put them in here. Again, we don't want to overwhelm the system with tiny little things. Where should you look for tasks? Literally everywhere. Everywhere. If you think about, if you want to do one thing at a time, you got to get everything out of your head. Anything that's going to crash into your frontal lobe, you want to get out of there and into this list. So it might be in your journals. Maybe keep a journal. It might be in your to-do list. We all mentioned that we're trying to use to-do lists. I would take your entire to-do list, put it into your backlog. Project plans, post-it notes. Maybe the monitor you're watching this masterclass on is surrounded by post-it notes, or your desk is surrounded by post-it notes. Add this to your backlog. They may already be on your calendar. You may already be calendar blocking. I would strongly suggest if they're one-off tasks, you get them back to your backlog as well. So you have a single record of all the things you need to work on. And like we mentioned, heavy emails. So go to your inbox. If you haven't replied for a week because you don't know what to do with it, put it in your backlog. That's the place to put it. And where should you put it? Well, I'm about to show you Asana. That's where I recommend, but it really doesn't matter where you put it. You want to put it in a single tool you can commit to. Friend, gone are the days of having a million to-do lists. We are trying to bring you back to a single list that is your source of truth for all the things you need to do for this area of focus. So if you're focused on work, it's for this area of focus. And here's the things that are required for you to be able to do that. You need to be able to have multiple lists. I know I just said single tool, but you'll see we're going to use lists in a very creative fashion. You need to be able to reorder those tasks. It's going to be really important for you to drag and drop when we get to prioritizing. And it needs to be available everywhere you go. So it can't just be on your computer at home, or it can't just be at your computer at work, or it can't just be on your phone. You really need a tool that's going to work anywhere. My recommendation is Asana. Asana's free. There's free accounts. You can also do this in Microsoft To Do, Google Tasks. You can see the list there. Apple Reminders is great if you're on Apple. Syncs everywhere. You can also do it in a paper journal. Some people love paper. If you're a bullet journaler, you're probably pretty committed to paper. That's okay. It's just going to take a little bit of work. So people in the Time Boss program have done it, but it's a little bit harder than I would recommend. The key here is that there's no silver bullet. So no matter what, this is about applying a philosophy. It is not about the tool. People always ask me, hey, what tool should I use? Doesn't matter. What's most important is the habit and the philosophy you're bringing. And again, we're committing to a single tool and we're getting everything out of our head. All right, so let's see this in action. Let me show you what this looks like. This is your backlog. So what you see here is Asana, and there's nothing magic about it. If you use Apple Reminders or Todoist or Monday.com or Wrike or Microsoft Tasks, whatever you use, it is literally just a list where I can type things in. You'll notice I have my backlog and I have a daily list. We're going to talk about the daily list here in a second. But when it comes to a backlog, again, our goal is just to get everything out of our head and into this one place. And it doesn't have to be polished. This is not the step where you're trying to perfectly describe a task. Literally, you just want to get it out of your head. So let me show you what this looks like. You might say, like, I need to make sales calls. I know I need to make sales calls. And I need to fix PTO policy. It stinks. You can see, not very well-worded task here. AI, what should we do about it? I need to follow up on the leadership team meeting. I need to hire a sales director. So you can see, I'm not giving a lot of thought to these things. I'm just getting them out of my head. I'm trying to dump as much as I can into the system so it's not in my head. That is the key. Now, when you do this, you might think, oh my gosh, that felt amazing. Or you might be totally overwhelmed, right? Like I just did 30 seconds and I got 5 of these. You might have a million of these things, and that's okay. Here's the thing that you're going to hear me say often in this program. Reality is your friend. The reality is, if you can get them to this list, it means they exist out there somewhere. And we're going to do a thorough process to work through this, but we're just helping you live in reality. And when you see them, when they are all in front of you, you have a much better chance of having agency over them and to navigate them. And again, it's anything that's going to compete for your work time. Now, here's the win, this is long living. So once you get it here, again, we're committing to a single list. Once you get it here, you don't have to think about that again. So hire a sales director is here forever until I prioritize it and I do something with it or I delete it, one or the other. I don't have to think about that again. I don't have to write another post-it note and put it on my computer to remember it because I'm creating a time operating system to allow me to run my week. And this is the place where it starts with your backlog. It's a single list that's really going to free up your head as we get going. All right. So we dumped everything into our backlog, any of our one-off tasks. Those are all sitting there. We're going to keep rolling. Now we're going to decide what to do. So this one is fun. And fun is a relative term, I guess. The task here's the work to be done. We need to prioritize all tasks that would be valuable to move forward this week. And we're going to break down those tasks into 1 to 4 hour tasks with a clear definition of done. Okay, here's the big idea. We saw this when we talked about doing one thing at a time. That one thing at a time is going to be decided by your time boss. Your time boss is going to make the call of what is the most important thing. And so we need to do this during the weekly planning meeting and really think through our priorities. So if we go back to our backlog, I'm going to flip over to a more refined backlog that I added. I'm going to show you how to do this. When you decide what to do, this is a really simple process. You could get incredibly complicated when it comes to prioritizing things. And feel free to layer on anything you like. My personal opinion is simple systems get used, complicated systems get thrown out. So I want to make this as simple a system as possible. And you are just going to stack rank 1 versus 2. So we're going to start at the bottom and work our way down. Where people tend to go sideways on this is they jump all over the place, and it's a great way to stress yourself out. What I want to do is 1 versus 2. So make sales calls. So I'm going to just come to it. I'm going to say make sales calls, fix PTO policy, it stinks. Well, I have a goal this quarter related to sales that I am personally responsible for. That's my highest priority. I'm going to keep that number 1. Fix PTO policy, it stinks. AI, what should we do about it? Well, PTO policy is really bothering my team right now. I know that it's a high frustration. I want to do something about it. AI is important. I know we need to work on that, but it's not the highest priority, so I'm going to leave those there. Follow up on the leadership team or AI, what should we do about it? Well, those tasks are important. I committed to get those tasks done by this next week. I'm going to move those up. It's not more important than sales calls, so I'm going to leave it right there. All right, so now I'm going to move to the next task. Hire sales director or review quarterly budget. Or excuse me, AI, what should I do about it, or hire sales director? Well, as I mentioned, sales is my number 1 goal. So I am going to drag hire sales director to the very top. If I hire a sales director, that helps me unlock more sales, that helps me get to those goals that I'm after, so I'm dragging it to the top. So again, you can see I'm not really overthinking it. I'm just doing 1 versus 2, 2 versus 3, 3 versus 4, and I'm dragging and dropping to get these into the order that I need. Now, as you do this, you probably thought, well, that's all fine and good, but now my, let's see, write copy for marketing emails. I committed to someone to get that done next Friday, and it's here's the deal, friend. It's way down the list. You did the work. All we've done is elucidate what your actual priorities are. So now we just need, we'll see in a future step how we work through that and how we navigate that. All right, so we've got our backlog prioritized. You've done the work to prioritize your backlog. Next big idea is everything is a discrete task. And this is a really, really important idea to get. So again, would encourage you to lean in, think deeply about this, because I think this will really be a big unlock for you. If you think about last week, it probably felt a little bit like this. You had emails, you had meetings, you had calls, you had research, you had budget, and all of it felt like it was kind of cascading on top of each other. Last week, when you look at it, feels like this big kind of blob of a week that had a bunch of tasks in it. What was actually happening, if you went back and looked second by second, what was actually happening is you were working on one thing at a time in order. And all of them were discrete tasks. So you might have answered an email, and then you jumped in a meeting, and then you had to jump out of that meeting to get on a call. And while you're on that call, you started thinking about the budget. And and you got about halfway into the budget, you switched over to research. But you were literally doing those things as discrete tasks in order over time. And so if we can describe last week that way, my strongly held belief is we can actually plan for our week accordingly. So everything becomes a discrete task. And here's what that looks like. You go from something like hire a sales director to the list we see here. And here's why. We often don't make progress on something like hire a sales director because we have a halting problem. That's a really big task. Especially if we've never done a task before, we will be totally overwhelmed by that task. And we might do a couple of things. One, we might procrastinate. Two, we might just start working in some odd direction because we're not sure exactly what to do. So we're just going to try some stuff. Whatever it is, we're going to waste time and we're likely going to increase our stress and our overwhelm. So taking a big task like hire sales director, we want to actually break it down into 1 to 4 hour tasks. So something like hire sales director, I might do something like this. Write a job description, 1 hour. Get feedback from CEO and VP, 1 hour. Post a job description to Indeed and LinkedIn and share with our email list, 2 hours. So you can see I'm literally creating a plan for my future self that is an action list that if as soon as I see write a job description, I know exactly what to do. Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to write a job description for a sales director. Get feedback from CEO and VP. Okay, I need to schedule time with these two individuals and I need to get their feedback and I need to make adjustments accordingly. So that's the work to be done when we define done for all these tasks. And you can see when I understand done, I can drive to done with conviction. I know what it means. I can check it off. If I write a job description, that task is done and I can move on to the next one. Think of it like delegating to your future self, right? Or excuse me, think of it like delegating to an employee. You are delegating to your future self, but think of it like delegating to an employee. If you're turning a task over to an employee, you want them to have real clarity of the work to be done. You want them to know the outcomes that you want, what you're trying to achieve. You're doing the same thing for your future self. And again, we are in the context of a weekly planning meeting. So you're doing this as a part of your planning process to set your future self up to be successful. Question on that. Why do we do 1 to 4 hour tasks? I have iterated on this so many times. I've had so many people run the time boss model. And here's what I found. If it's less than an hour, it tends to jam up your calendar because ultimately this is getting to your calendar. And so what I would strongly recommend is you're bunching together tasks that are about an hour. They're much easier to manage and it's easier to drive towards done. You can absolutely add a 30-minute task to your calendar if you want, no problem, or less, whatever you want to do. But I'd recommend about an hour. The challenge or the reason why 4 hours is the top is if we go beyond 4 hours, it's just really hard to estimate. We don't have a really good feel for more than half a day's worth of work. And so my strong recommendation is to cap it no more than 4 hours. If it's more than 4 hours, just break it down into smaller tasks. Can you do a 6-hour task? Absolutely. It's up to you. But my strong recommendation would be that you break it down. So how does that look? Let me jump over to another refined version of my backlog. You can see here I had hire sales director, and now I have the tasks. Write a job description, get feedback from the CEO and VP, post to Indeed and LinkedIn. And you can see I've done that work for my top 20 tasks. And here's why we're doing the top 20 tasks. If you think about your work week, again, if you're working about a 40 to 50 hour work week, if you're breaking out of 1 hour tasks, when you get through 20 tasks, you're likely going to have more than full capacity for your week. And we'll look at that in a second. So I say top 20. If you get into our future steps, you're getting this to your calendar and you need more, you can always come back. But you'll notice what we're doing is we're taking something big like hire sales director, and we're manufacturing that into a clear task, clear definition of done with time associated to it. And once your to-do list has time associated to it, you can now map it to your calendar. And that's what we're going to do in the next step. All right. So we prioritize tasks that would be valuable to move forward this week, and we broke down tasks to 20 tasks to 1 to 4 hour tasks with a clear definition of done. Let me say a quick thing about prioritizing things that are valuable to move forward this week. I'm not saying put all the urgent, important things in. Ideally, you would be moving to the things that are important but not urgent. I want you to be thinking about what's important to move forward this week. It may be things due next week. It may be things due 3 months from now. But you want to be thoughtful about the next 7 days. That's really what we're focused in on when we talk about a weekly time management operating system. So that's our focus. All right, decide when to do it. This one has a couple moving parts, so again, would love for you to lean in, but when you get to the bottom, this is really fun. I think you're really gonna like this. So the work to be done in this step is we're gonna block recurring tasks. I mentioned earlier, we're gonna have a plan for recurring tasks. This is when we're gonna take care of that. We're gonna block your personal items because you're gonna have items that come up, doctor's appointments, pick up the dry cleaning, whatever. You're gonna make sure that we have a plan for that. You're going to determine your time inventory next week and block Whirlwind. You may have no clue what that is. I'm about to explain it to you. And sneak preview, you're probably going to want to fight me on it. And then we're going to block for prioritize one-off tasks in order of priority from your backlog. All right, so we'll walk through that in detail here. Remember that we talked about that our goal is to do just one thing, and our calendar is our actual capacity. Over a given hour, we can only do one thing. Remember, everything's a discrete task. So our calendar is the way that we are setting a plan for ourselves to just do one thing at a time. Our calendar is how we protect our capacity, how we even understand our capacity, and then how we protect that capacity. And this is where time blocking comes in. A lot of you said that you already time block. That's great. Your backlog, all the work you've just done in your backlog is going to be your best friend for time blocking. You're no longer blocking large amorphous tasks. You're blocking very specific discrete tasks with a clear definition of done. So you can see, write a job description, it's going to 8 a.m., 8 to 9 a.m. Give feedback on the job description, it's going 9 to 10 a.m. Post job description is going to 10 to 12. So again, we're not blocking these big amorphous things. We're blocking very specific things that honor our capacity and help us have a plan for reality. So let me show you what this looks like. We're going to jump into our calendar this time. And your calendar may look something like this. This is a standard calendar. You might have a couple items on it. You probably have work meetings on it already. We'll talk about that in a second. That's great. But again, you just got some life items on your calendar if you're not currently using a calendar. First task we want to do is to block our recurring tasks. So you can see here, I've gone through and I've added recurring tasks, even meetings that I do every week. So I've got my analytics review. That's a meeting I add to my calendar. It's recurring every week. I've got one-on-ones. I've got a team meeting. I've got my time boss habits that we've already talked about. So I've got my weekly planning meeting and my daily review meeting. Weekly planning meeting I have on Friday. Daily review meeting I have every afternoon. And here's the plan. Recurring tasks are just like any task. You're just doing them every week. So if you think about your time as a currency or as an inventory of available time, you are betting your strategy on those recurring tasks. I am saying when I add a weekly analytics review meeting, 1 to 2 p.m. every Monday, I'm saying it is worth 1 hour of my limited time, my finite and valuable time, for me to look at the analytics and do that every single week and make course corrections or adjustments. I think that's worth it, absolutely. But know that anytime you add it to a recurring item to your calendar, you are saying that this is worth it. So this may be an opportunity as you get into this process to go back to your recurring items and say, you know what, maybe some of these aren't actually worth my time. I actually need to pull these off. I need to do something differently. Now we want to block personal items. So we've got, you can see here, I've added a doctor's appointment. I've added picking up dry cleaning. I've added lunch with Kelly. I'm adding these to my calendar because they are about to compete with my work time, right? So if they're going to compete with my work time, I need to see them on my calendar. So I'm not planning for capacity I don't have. Certainly I can work late, I can work early, whatever, but I want to really clearly understand what my capacity is. Great. So first 2 steps, block your recurring items, block your personal items. We've got those done. Let's hop back and let's talk about Whirlwind. As I said, a big idea is that reality is your friend. The number one mistake every person makes when they block their time is they block 100% of the time. And if you are a time blocker, you, like me, have probably done this before, and it probably crashed and burned because there is no way for us to control all of our time. If you aren't a solopreneur that never has to work with another human, you have people that are going to come from your time. So that means you need to live in reality. And again, when we talk about reality as our friend, I think blocking 60% of your time is probably on average what people need to do. We'll talk about a little later some options there, but at least blocking 60% of your time, meaning you're leaving 40% of your time open for what we're going to call Whirlwind. And I really believe it's going to be your best friend. Most people, when they start Time Boss, fight me on this. They think it's too much. But the reality is they get to the end and they realize that there is tremendous power when you have Whirlwind set aside for all the stuff that's on the screen right now, and the 60% of your time is dedicated to focus to your priorities, to all those things we got into your backlog, it's a totally different experience of work, and you actually have greater impact because of it. So here are the things that go in your whirlwind: phone calls, drop-ins, last-minute requests, Slack, Teams, email, underestimated tasks. If you've never built a backlog before, guaranteed you just put stuff in your backlog that you're not going to estimate correctly. It's just the way it is. You'll get better over time. That's why these are habits, but you should just plan to underestimate tasks as you get started. Physical breaks. You need to go for a walk. You need to walk your dog. You need to stand up. You need to stretch. You need mental breaks. You need family member hugs. I work in a remote environment. I love family member hugs. I live for him. Love it when my son comes home and just comes and puts his arms around my neck. I love the guy. So again, you just got to plan for reality. You can't block every single second of every single day. It's not realistic. So let's see this in action. This is a key step. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to block out work. So I typically work 8 to 5. That's going to be my standard work day. So I'm just going to put this here for our reference work, and just to I'm just going to have it repeat every weekday, every day, and I'll have it repeat 5 times. This is just for us to see it. You don't have to do this when you're doing a weekly planning meeting. All right, so that's work. So really what I've just elucidated for myself is this is my currency to work. This is the inventory I have available to plan for. Like, this is that time. This is what I'm committing to this week. Again, you can do 20 hours, you can do 40 hours, you can do 60 hours. It's your choice. You choose how much you work. I'm just trying to show you what to do with that inventory once you have it. So I know the easy math. If you are working this type of schedule, then your whirlwind is literally 3 hours of the day. And again, I can just hear you through Zoom telling me that this isn't realistic. And I'm about to show you why it is realistic. So please just hang with me. So I'm just going to add these to my calendar quick. And I would actually recommend, as you get into this, that you actually do block for whirlwind, that it's a thing you block for. Whoops, not on Mondays. We're going to block this daily. And we're going to have it repeat 5 times. There we go. Okay. Great. So now we have whirlwind. So you can see I now have a realistic picture of what my inventory is that I have available to block. And it's all these things in the work containers where there's not something else scheduled. So you'll notice we've got whirlwind in there. We've got our recurring tasks. We've got our personal items. And now we understand our actual inventory, and we can actually make this happen. So let me talk about whirlwind real quick. I have found that what works best for me is the end of the day. You might find that you want to strategically break up whirlwind. You may want an hour beginning of the day, hour end of the day, hour midday. You may want to do 30-minute chunks throughout the day. It's really up to you. And that's why this is the power of working on your time as a set of habits, why I strongly suggest that Time Boss weekly planning meeting. You can iterate week over week to find the right whirlwind for you. And it just makes it so easy to figure that out. The other note I'll say about whirlwind, the more control you have over your time, the less whirlwind you need. So if you have really, really tight control of your time, or let's say you have an executive assistant that blocks for you so that you aren't constantly interrupted, you can have less whirlwind. The less control you have over your time, if you are in customer support or you are in sales, you might have to have more whirlwind because you just have things that are going to crash in your calendar, and you need a way to deal with that reality. I think most people are right around that 40% time, so that's why I recommend going that route. Okay, so now we're going to jump back into our backlog, and now this is honestly the easy part. You've done the work, you know what your inventory is, you've done the work to break these down into discrete tasks, and now you can always simplify this, but at a very base level, it's a copy paste-a-thon. So I'm going to take write job description, and from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., I'm going to write the job description. I know that hour's free. There's nothing else coming for that time. Get feedback from CEO and VP. I'm going to do an hour here, and I'll make sure I get them invited to that meeting. That works on their calendar, but let's assume it does just to keep us moving. I'm going to post the job description to Indeed. I'm going to go back to my calendar, and that's going to be 2 hours here. And then I'm going to plan realistically to have lunch because I need to make sure that I'm taking time to eat lunch. Great. And that's Monday. So you can see, I'll fix time later. You can see that's Monday. That's realistic. Like that is actually real. That is what I can fit in Monday now that I've done the work to get it to this. And I've got whirlwind, and we'll talk about later how to exactly use that. So I'm going to go in the next day, review resumes that I receive for sales director. I don't need to do that. I need to let my resumes post, schedule interviews. Again, I need to get resumes back from people, complete interviews. Again, I need to get resumes back from people. I'm not going to do that. Next up, I had team retreat. So brainstorm locations for the team retreat. So I'm gonna grab that task, go back to my calendar, and I'm gonna do that from, it's a 1 hour task. I'm gonna do it from 8 to 9 a.m. So you can see how that goes. I'm not gonna fill it out completely. You're simply filling in the gaps. You can split up tasks. You can time trade. So let's move things around. So let's say I want to take advantage of this time here, and I've got this one-on-one recurring with Jeff every week at the slot 9:30, but I only have a half hour here. Let's say I ask Jeff and say, hey, Jeff, would you be open to move to 2 p.m. for our one-on-ones? Jeff says, yeah. I just time trade. You can see I moved Jeff down, and I've just created an hour and a half opening here that I can put anything in. So I jump back in my backlog, and I grab define agenda for the retreat and schedule. And I do that here. And I said 2 hours, so I'm going to add another half hour here. So you can see how it goes. Again, once it's on your calendar, you can simply move things around. Let's say I want these to swap. I might do that. It really doesn't matter. You're simply prioritize them, and now you can do the work to move them around to make your schedule work for you. But you have a clear sense of what your inventory is. You have a clear sense of your currency that you can spend on this. And here's why this is so powerful. When you time block, it enforces you doing one thing at a time. When I go back to this calendar, I can only have one thing on my calendar at a time. So I'm literally enforcing for my future self that we're just going to do one thing. And we've done the work to free up my head where we can be emotionally free to just do that one thing. In addition, it creates an intention anchor. When I do this, I have now said out loud, I'm going to write a description 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Monday. If I show up 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Monday and I don't do that, I'm going to feel it. I'm going to be thinking about that. We'll talk about it in a second when we talk about commitment, that we want our intention to be towards making our highest priorities happen. And that's why that's there. And finally, time constraints drive decision-making. Here's the deal. So let me show you what this looks like fully fleshed out. This is a full calendar. You've noticed I filled up all those inventory slots for work that I had available with things that came out of my backlog. This is all the time I have. I'm choosing to work 40 hours this week. Now I can choose to make that 45. I can choose to make that 35. I could choose to make that 60. It's up to you. But the constraint of your schedule drives decision-making. It ensures that you are putting the most high priority tasks on your calendar that are going to actually move your goals forward, that are actually aligned to your values. So that constraint is so important to drive decision-making. All right. That's a really significant step. You block recurring tasks, you block your personal items, you've determined your time inventory for the week, and then you block prioritized tasks to fill in that inventory. Huge stuff. Next step, where most people fail in this process, is they don't deal with the things that don't fit. So if we go back to our backlog, as I was filling that out, let's see what our last thing was, draft recommendation for the board. So I made it to here, which means I didn't get to this task. This task didn't make it to my schedule. Now, that might sit on me. I might feel really strongly about creating a creative exploration and design options. I have to deal with that. If I don't have a plan for that, it's going to overwhelm me. And here's the things you can do. We're going to jump right into the steps. Talking about it here. You can delegate, you can defer, you can downsize, you can digitize, or you can delete tasks that don't fit next week. Whatever you do, we just want to have a plan for them, especially the ones that we emotionally feel, because those are the ones that are going to overwhelm us. So we've already looked at this. Do one thing at a time. As I mentioned, this is the way your world actually works. But here's what also was happening. As you were doing one thing at a time last week, you were feeling all the things that didn't fit. So remember those orange boxes when we talked about your capacity? That's the things that you were feeling. That's what we're working through. So here's what you can do. You can delegate. Can someone else on your team complete the task? Rule of thumb is if you can get a task done 70%, or someone can get a task done 70% as well as you, you should delegate it. So do you have someone on your team that either you can delegate to, that maybe they work for you, or a teammate where they're a better fit to get that work done? Can you get that, make sure that that thing is taken care of? Can you defer it? Here's the value of your backlog. It's long lasting. It's not going anywhere. So if you get that to your backlog, it can just sit there. Could it just sit there till next week without hurting anything? Just let it sit. You'll come back to it next week in your weekly planning meeting. Can you downsize it? Parkinson's law says that a task will take the time that we fill it. So if we go back to our calendar, let's say here I did lots of sales calls, right? What if I decide, you know what, I'm going to kill one of these sales calls. I'm going to free up an hour of inventory. And in my other sales calls containers, let's see where are sales calls. In my other sales call container, I might increase the value of the leads that I'm calling. If I'm going to spend less time on sales calls, I need to improve the value of my time in those sales calls. Can you downsize a task without it hurting you? Can you digitize it? Can you automate a task? Can ChatGPT or Copilot that Microsoft just announced, can they do something for you? For example, writing a job description. Could I half this time by having ChatGPT give me a great first draft for a job description? There might be ways for you to simplify items that are getting to your calendar. And finally, can you delete them? If you have the authority to delete them, if that is in your power and it's not critical, what breaks if you just delete the task? If the answer is nothing, you should just delete the task because it means it's not actually a priority. So be really judicious about what gets to your backlog. Again, that's a way for us to really filter through the backlog and keep it clean. Finally, last resort, if it's required to keep a promise or keep a commitment, you can add more inventory. And let me show you how to do that. Again, we're adding inventory with discrete tasks. So if I go back to my backlog, I have this complete a creative exploration of design options. And if I go to my calendar, I'm going to be at basketball practice this is my son's basketball practice. I know I'm just going to be sitting there for 3 hours on Monday. I'm just going to add in 2 hours here to make that happen. So I'd add that task. So while I'm sitting there, I'm going to work on that. You'll notice I'm not just working into the night and pulling an all night or anything like that. I've kept it a discrete task and I've added it to my calendar in a very specific spot. Maybe you need to negotiate with your spouse or a roommate or anyone in your life to say, hey, on Tuesday night, I'm going to work a little bit later. I need to get that particular task done. I'm going to work from this time to this time, and that's it. Again, you're keeping it a discrete task. You're not blowing open your calendar. You're just expanding your inventory a little bit to handle that task this week. All right, so that's how we decide what to do with doesn't fit. Finally, commit to the plan. We're going to go quick on this one, but I want to emphasize why this is so important. You've done all this work to plan out your time. If you don't commit to it, you literally just wasted another hour of your life. And your commitment to this, your wholehearted commitment to this plan and doing the work, really being thoughtful about how you prioritize and what you prioritize and the tasks you break down and what makes it to your calendar, this is the moment for you to really seal the deal as the time boss and say, I'm committed to this plan next week as my future self. So the first task is to ensure your future self has the resources they need to be successful. This is just like anything. So if you set up an employee to be successful, you're not going to give them a plan that they're going to fail. You're going to make sure that they have the resources necessary to make that happen. So let's say here, make sales calls. You had 2 hours blocked. Maybe you know what? I need to take a mental break. Before I get into the next part of my day, I need a mental break. And you're going to add that there. Mental break. Maybe you're going to go for a walk. Maybe you're going to have a conversation with a spouse or a friend, or you're going to stop and get a snack. Whatever it is, you're literally in this task just going over your calendar and figuring out what is it that you need to be successful. Next, you need to set aside the things you're not doing. We already did this in the last task, but again, it's just one more step just to make sure you're doing a quick mental inventory to say, okay, the things that didn't make it to my backlog, can I truly set those aside? And if you can't, go back and do step 4 again. Deal with the things that don't fit. You want to make sure you feel all the feels right now. We are localizing the feels to this moment. We are not punting to our future self to feel that stress. We as the time boss are feeling that stress right now. Next, I want you to send your priorities to 3 people. And here's why. When you do that, it makes it real. So just like calendar blocking makes it real, when we send it to 3 people, it makes it real. If I would really strongly suggest you do this to your boss or whoever the key stakeholders in your life, maybe an investor, maybe a partner, maybe another teammate, send your priorities. Couple things. One, this will be a massive professional upgrade for you if you're not doing this. It just puts you on the hook to make this plan happen. It's like having an accountability partner going to the gym. You are so much more likely to achieve your goals by getting other people involved. Let them know. You can see here are the things I'm prioritizing. Here's the things that I needed to defer that don't fit. If you're sending this to a boss or a key stakeholder, the value is it gives them a chance to weigh in. You can get their thoughts. They can say, hey, I actually think you should prioritize this differently. Or, hey, I saw you deferred that thing. Is there any way we can move it up? You have now created a currency of your time that they can work with. You can say, oh, yeah, absolutely. Number 1 that we deferred, I'll make that my priority, but I do need to drop something down. Which of these things should I drop down that aren't going to fit? Again, you're creating a currency around your time now that is just such a powerful experience. So that is committing to the plan. Once you send your priorities to people, it's go time. Now it's just time to go get it. You've made a good plan, and it's time to make that plan happen. All right, so you've reflected on your week, you've dumped what needs to be done, you've decided what to do, you've decided when to do it, you've decided what to do with what doesn't fit, and you are now committed to the plan. You have run your first weekly planning meeting, and you have a great plan that your future self can execute. We're going to talk in a second about how to make that plan happen. It's much simpler. You've done the hard work. The running your week is much easier. But I want to make this get this big idea out there. Your calendar is the real-time expression of your values. So whatever you just did, whatever you just got to your calendar is the real-time expression of your values. Right now, your habits, whatever your habits are related to time, whatever your calendar looks like, it is perfectly tuned for your habits, meaning whatever you are doing on a regular basis is what is ending up on your calendar. The dissonance you feel is probably where your calendar does not reflect your strategic priorities or it doesn't reflect your values. I want you to have an operating system for your week that allows you to express your values into your week. And that's what we're doing here. That's the big idea. So I want to pause and I'm going to take a look and see what questions I have from Kelly. So great question from Andrea. Should you be managing your personal life tasks as part of this exercise or keep that separate? Such a great question. I strongly suggest you do that separate, but you can use the exact same habits. So you want to attach the Time Boss operating system to time that competes. So your work life competes. You're 40 to 50 or 60 or 20, however many hours you're going to work next week, all that time competes. You're dedicating that to work. So you can run these exact same habits for your personal life. You can create a backlog for your personal life. You can create a backlog for that side hustle you want to run. Again, it's all about time that competes. Another question, what are thoughts, strategies on work environment that is meeting heavy or needs to have a calendar open for meetings? So I think we won't have time to talk about this in detail today, but I think that is about scoping expectations. So if your job has to stay open, that is your strategic priority. If your job is to be at meetings, those are your strategic priorities. So you need to be aligned with the stakeholders in your life to say, hey, we can't have it both ways. I can't give you 26 hours of focused heads down work and be available 26 hours for meetings. Both of those can't be true. Can we work together to structure a plan that helps us be successful against our goals, that balances both my need to make things happen and my need to be available for meetings? And those are the type of innovations that you work through when you have these habits in place. Week over week, you can make adjustments in order to stay aligned and stay focused. All right, great. We are going to keep moving. Great questions. Any question we didn't get to, we will have a chance to answer. But what I'd like to do now is I'd like to simulate Monday so you can see what this looks like in real life. Here's what it means to run your day. So you've done the work to plan, and now we're heading into Monday. So it's time. You are now your future self is now your present self. It's time for you to make the thing happen. First thing you're going to do is just do what you committed on your calendar. So 8 a.m., we already looked at this. So we'll look at it today. You're going to write a job description. So at 8 a.m., you just write a job description. So you're just doing what you planned. Anytime you have an interruption, you're going to add it to your daily list. And I'll show you in a second what the daily list is. Then you're going to use Whirlwind to either work your daily list, process your inboxes, Slack, Teams, email, whatever, and catch up on unfinished tasks. And finally, you're going to close down with a daily review meeting. And I'll show you the details of the daily review meeting. So we'll get right into this. You can see it. Actually, we'll start with the daily list. So your daily list, think of your daily list like your short-term memory. So your backlog is where you put all the big stuff, right? As stuff was coming in, or excuse me, as you dumped out of your brain, you want to get everything out of your brain and it's into your backlog. That's your long living list. Your daily list is how you navigate today. It's your short-term memory. So if someone interrupts you and needs you to call them back, you add it to your daily list. And ultimately, we're going to process the daily list each day. So it's not long living. This is a very short term. This is like chicken scratch to get you through your day. And we'll show you in a sec exactly what that looks like. So how is the daily list different from the backlog? Daily list is short-term memory, backlog is long-term memory. Daily list items are added today, they're processed today, they're cleared out today. I literally do my daily list on a 3x5 index card, so I throw it away at the end of the day. I don't want to keep it. It's intended to be short living, but you can really do it anywhere. I'll show you how to do it in Asana here in a second. And remember, your backlog is long living. Items can be added anytime. You're going to process it weekly in your weekly planning meeting, and it's long living. So it's a list you're committed to for the long haul. All right, so let me show you what this looks like. We're going to quickly simulate Monday to give you a picture of what this looks like. So again, Monday morning you show up and your job is just to run the plan. So let's say you get in and you're starting to write the job description, and at 8:30, your teammate Steve calls and he asks you to give him a call back. So on your daily list, you're just going to drop in return of Steve's call by 5 p.m. Next, so you finish up the job description. Steve interrupted, but you're able to get the job description done. At 9 a.m., your website goes down. And if your website goes down, it's on fire. There's nothing you can do. So make sales calls is going to have to move, right? So what we're going to do is we're literally going to move make sales calls down into Whirlwind here. So here we're going to handle the website. You don't have to add things to your calendar like this, but just to show you visually what was happening, the website was down. You did some sales calls here. But again, that item's not gone. It's not deleted. It's not gone forever. You just moved into your Whirlwind. Whirlwind is like interweek budget for you to be able to handle any changes that come. So your plan is still intact. Your website went down for an hour and your plan is still intact. Next, let's say you do your sales calls, take a mental break. You're getting feedback. You're going to get feedback on the job description from your CEO and VP. And at 11 o'clock, Sarah on your team pings and she needs you to look at something. And you say, hey, when do you need that back by? She's like, end of the day. You're like, great. I'm going to toss in the weekly email. So schedule time to talk with Sarah around email. You keep moving throughout your day. 1 p.m., your CEO is going to ask you for 2 reports. One is a report that he needs by Friday on analytics. You're like, no problem. Add it to my daily list. Again, daily list is your short-term memory. It's where we toss things as they're coming midday so that we don't get distracted by them. And then he also says, hey, I also need a sales report today. So I'm going to go ahead and literally just block that right into my Whirlwind sales report. Put it right here. So it's in my Whirlwind. So you'll notice 2 things. One is the thing that doesn't happen today, I dropped into my daily list. I can take care of that later. This thing that I'm committed to today, I added it to my calendar. So tasks aren't going into the ether. They're not going into my head. They're either going to go into my daily list, they're going to go into my calendar, or as you'll see in a second, they're actually going to go back to the backlog. Perfect. So take lunch, do my weekly analytics review, I make sales calls, and I end up shortening this. I'm going to short this to an hour. I'm going to do the sales reports. And now I'm just in Whirlwind. So in Whirlwind, I'm catching up on my unfinished tasks. I'm going to run that report. I'm going to handle my daily list. So I gave Steve a call back. I reached out to Sarah. She was available. So I talked to Sarah. I'm going to process my email. I'm going to do Teams or Slack or whatever my communication channel is. And I'm all done there. I don't need to do the sales report today. It's not due till Friday. So I'm going to leave that. So you can see a bunch of stuff happened today. A bunch of interruptions happened today. All kinds of things came at me, and I was able to hold my plan together in the midst of that, which is a total win of this system. Your plan didn't go sideways. I'm still making progress against that plan I committed to, and I have a realistic way to handle it with these different components of my operating system. So now let's talk about your daily review meeting. This is Time Boss Habit 2. So we did the weekly planning meeting. Remember, the daily review meeting happens every single day into your day. This is how you close down your day. You'll see I have it on my calendar here, end of day at 5 o'clock. So first thing I'm going to do is reflect. What worked? What didn't work? What needs course correction? Again, put it in your journal. Just think about it. Doesn't really matter. But if you can make 1% course corrections here, this is the time to do it. I checked my email too much today. Tomorrow, I'm going to be more committed to just checking email during Whirlwind time. Any little adjustment like that is so powerful to help you improve day over day and how you handle your time. Handling complete items. So 2 options here. You can either block it on calendar or into your Whirlwind, or you can backlog it. So I had this sales report that's due here. I'm going to open up and look at my week, and I'm just going to put it into Whirlwind. So I've got some time here on Whirlwind. I'm going to do sales report. And just like that, I check it off and my daily list is empty. So you can see I'm committed to my plan. I'm leveraging Whirlwind as interweek budget to help me hold my plan together to deal with reality. The reality was, if had I planned in my entire week 100%, I never would have got that report done. It wouldn't have worked. It just wouldn't have fit. And I would have felt stressed by that, and it would have weighed on me, and I wouldn't have known what to do, and I'd probably just work late to get it done. We're creating a realistic plan that can deal with reality. And then finally, commit to your calendar. So what I'm going to do, if I'm running this end of day on Monday, I'm going to go back to this calendar Monday, and I'm going to go to Tuesday, and I'm going to look at my calendar again. Literally just look at my calendar. And I'm going to remind myself of the value of all these tasks. Why? If I know why I'm doing something, I am so much more likely to be committed to that task. And so by adding this to your daily review meeting, you're just reaffirming your commitment to the schedule your time boss made for you. Remember, in a sober moment last week in your weekly planning meeting, you did a lot of thinking. You felt a lot of feels. You got that work to your plan. We are honoring your time boss, and we are simply making the plan happen. If you think about it, when you work on your week, this schedule is really just a 7-day bet. I'm not saying you have to be committed to this forever. We're just asking ourselves to make a 7-day bet on what we think are the highest priorities. And when you do the daily review meeting and you remind yourself the value of that task, you're locking in that bet. You're reinforcing that bet. All right. Last big idea for you, no open loops. So a future task has 3 homes. You've got your daily list, which we talked about. You handle that in your whirlwind. You put it on your calendar, like you saw, we blocked for it, or you put it in your backlog. There's nowhere else to put it in this system. These are the only places things end up, so things don't get lost. Again, it's a cohesive way for you to navigate around this system. Either put it in your daily list, block it in your calendar, or put it in your backlog, and you'll get to it at your next weekly planning meeting. No task will ever get lost again. It doesn't have to sit here in your frontal lobe and stress you out and make you worry about when you're going to handle it. This is the stuff that woke me up in the middle of the night when I was so stressed out. This is the stuff that made me lose my sense of smell. I just was overwhelmed by all the things swimming around in my head, and I needed an OS like this to make it happen. So what did you just get for yourself? If you commit and run a plan like this, you get a realistic plan you can run. You get a way to measure success daily and weekly. You can see very clearly making progress. You're protected to do just one thing at a time. You have whirlwind to deal with the reality of your day. Reality is your very best friend here. And you have a path to your highest sustainable pace. You can see, again, habits. I obviously have been doing this a long time. I know what to do when things come at me. But as you settle into these habits, you will find your highest sustainable pace. And friends, it's just a gift. It is a gift you give to your future self by doing the work and installing these habits. Question you might ask is, but does it actually work? I am here to tell you it 100% works. And there are many, 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 many people besides me that can attest to it. You can see some of the testimonials on the screen, some of the key things I just love. It's so much less firefighting, so much more fire prevention, getting ahead of things. I'm not able to just do the work I do, but enjoy it with relief and peace. It's amazing. I'm less stressed. My progress at work is more strategic, enjoyable, sustainable, and proactive where it used to be reactive. It is an operating system. It's not a hack. And here are hardcore stats. Stories are fine. Here's our hardcore stats. Of the people that have implemented Time Boss, 83% report getting better results, which means, again, as you probably saw, we put quite a few constraints on reality. And potentially you might even be working less when you're doing a program like this, but you actually get better results because more high leverage tasks get to your calendar and you can rest and recover and you can focus on one thing at a time. It just changes the experience of work. 94% report experiencing more peace and less anxiety. So again, these are the same cohorts of humans. So some people are actually getting more done and 94% are experiencing more peace and less anxiety. 0% reported a loss in productivity, which means they installed a system like this and it didn't make them lose impact. At a minimum, they protected their impact. And again, 83% of them actually had higher impact. It just works. I have run it 700 times on myself to get to the point where it just works. It's a cohesive system that flows in and out together. And here's the secret ingredient, friends. It's just commitment to habits. This is not a hack. You're not going to get this tomorrow. This is going to take your commitment to habits. Just like if you want to change your body composition, it's commitment to an eating plan and going to the gym. If you want to change your financial habits, it's commitment to a budget month after month after month. Time is no different. They handed you a to-do list in college and said, just use this, and they lied to you. You need a cohesive system that can work together. And here's how this plays out. Really who we're committed to is our future self. And often we don't really think this way, right? But this is how we actually exist across time. There's a past self, present self, and a future self. Your past self signed you up for this masterclass because you probably felt like you needed some help. Your present self is here now evaluating this whole idea and saying, gosh, this sounds like a lot, or I'm not sure I can do this, or whatever story you're telling yourself right now. Maybe you're really excited. That's awesome. But who we're here for is your future self. Your past self felt like I must change or something may be different. Your present self might feel like this hurts. As you get started with Time Boss, you may think, gosh, this is hard. It takes a lot to do these habits. But we are betting on your future self that looks back at you right now and says, I've got this. Thank you so much for putting in the work. Your present self today is holding the ball for your future self. They're the one that has to do the work to get the value for your future self. That is who we're committing to. That's who we want to wrap our head around. Here's the deal. I have no doubt you can white knuckle this for the next week. I have no doubt that you can, through force of will, block your calendar, make all the things happen. But the power is in habits. James Clear, I call him Uncle James. He's the man. He wrote Atomic Habits, one of the greatest books ever written. He has such a powerful thought. He says, we do not rise to the level of our goals, aka white knuckle. We do not rise to the level of our goals and just get a goal across. We fall to the level of our systems. Systems can be replaced for habits. That's what he's referring to here. I am trying to create a set of habits that you can lean back into that just help you run your week. And here's why habit change is hard. It's like we talked about with tying your shoes earlier. When you are trying to get a habit, it's low calories burned. If you have a habit right now, like tying your shoes, you don't even think about it. It's so hardwired into your muscle memory and your brain that it's easy for your brain. When you learn something new, there's obviously a bunch of steps to what I just showed you. It's gonna feel hard because your brain's burning all kinds of calories. It just says this is hard. But the goal over time, if you get good reps, if you run reps, you will have a new relationship with time and it will become easy. It is easy for me to do this at this point. It is easy for people that spend 6 weeks doing this to come out on the other side and weekly plan and run a daily review meeting and all those things. It's gonna take longer than you want it to. This is another thing from James Clear again. He's just brilliant when it comes to habit. You think it's gonna look like this, up and to the right. I'm gonna start tomorrow and it's gonna feel great. The reality is, like any habit, like going to the gym, it's gonna take you a couple weeks before you notice, and it's gonna take you a couple weeks before anyone else notices when you go to the gym. It's no different with time. It's just gonna take a bit for you to get this right. And you're gonna have this era of where you feel this disappointment, like it's not going fast enough. And I just want you to be committed to these habits. And I can't impress upon you enough that this works. And I've seen it work across so many people, as you saw in those stats earlier. It just takes time. And truly, it will be better than you can imagine. I couldn't believe, in past Andrew could never have believed it could be like it is now. That it's so different. It's so utterly different than how I was before. And I feel like anything's possible. Anything I might say, that is the thing I want to grow and improve in. I have a system to put it into, and I'm reasonably confident that I can move that thing forward with the system that I have. So it might take longer than you want, but I believe it'll be worth it. Here's my challenge to you. My challenge to you is to commit to this for 6 weeks with accountability. And we'll see in a sec, you have all kinds of options for accountability. This is not a sales pitch. This is me telling you that the only way you're going to move forward is if you have accountability, because it's too hard. It's like going to the gym or going to CrossFit or changing your relationship with money. You just got to have accountability. You got to have someone to help you. Accountability will drive you to participate daily. It will drive you to keep in the game if you're doing this with someone. Daily reps is what's going to drive your habit change. Every single day, you got to run a daily review meeting. Every single week, you got to run a weekly planning meeting. Every day, you got to deal with, how am I going to navigate my whirlwind? How am I going to keep my schedule together? There's a lot of moving parts here that, again, it's simple. As you look at it in practice, or in theory, it's simple. It's just 2 habits. But in practice, there's going to be friction, and you need that accountability. The daily reflection process, if you have someone you're working this out with, or you're just doing a daily review every day, it'll help you with that 1%, that 1-degree shift that over time has such tremendous impact on you. And 6 weeks ultimately is going to allow you to get past the friction of your old time management habits. Here's the deal. You are living into a future with whatever time management habit you have right now. Whatever you're getting from your calendar, it is perfectly tuned to your habits. It's kind of like our weight. Our weight is perfectly tuned to our relationship with food or our relationship with exercise. Time is no different. And so 6 weeks helps you undo those old habits and install these new habits. All right, I'm going to jump back to questions and then we'll round up. So Corbin had a question. Hi, Corbin. Corbin is an old friend. Do you suggest having a backlog and daily list, a separate project in Asana versus having it one project in Asana with separate sections? I think I personally like it separate. It's really up to you. As you can see, Asana is just a tool for you, Corbin. It's more about the philosophy that I have my backlog. That's my long living thing. And I have my daily list where I'm literally just keeping things out of my head. So it's up to you. It's probably better, actually, as I think about it, it's probably better for them to be separate, because if your daily list is in your backlog, every time you go to your daily list, you're going to see your backlog. And sometimes time management is truly just hiding things from yourself. It's convincing your present self that all those other tasks don't exist out there. I only get to do one thing at a time. So you might be best served by having your daily list as a completely separate thing. Let's see, I think there was one more question. Oh, good question from Justin. What if I need to change my plans midweek? It's real, definitely happens. As we saw in the example, your website goes down, and that can happen. Um, the way to think about it is they're just discrete tasks, right? So if, let's say you have an existential change, boss comes in, says, delete your goals, we have to head in a new direction, no problem at all. What I would do is literally just dump your calendar for the week, run a weekly planning meeting again with whatever new information you have. These are the new priorities. Great. I'm going to run a weekly planning meeting. I'm going to get it back to my calendar. And in an hour or less, you have clarity and focus to continue to attack your week. Now, most of the time, I love when people ask that question. Most of the time, 95% of the time, there's not going to be existential information that comes in midweek. So my strong encouragement to you is to just bet on the plan that you made. You can always adjust in your weekly planning meeting. Worst case scenario, you're 7 days away from changing your plan or updating your plan, revising your plan in your weekly planning meeting. That's the value of the habits. You're going to come back to these things regularly and just recenter. If the priorities change this week, adjust next week in your weekly planning meeting. So again, it's a really, really resilient process. All right, great. I know we had a bunch of questions. I will reach out to anyone personally where I didn't get that question answered. Also, a number of people on the call were the first 10 to sign up, so I will be reaching out to you to schedule that coaching call as well, so look for that. I would love to stay connected. Like I said, I'm just trying to get Time Boss content out there. I'm such a deep believer in supporting people. Kelly will drop these links in the chat, but LinkedIn's a great place to have conversation. I will answer any question asked. And we are putting out content 6 days a week, nothing on Sunday. But I really want to encourage people in these Time Boss habits. Newsletter is a great spot for deep dives. We go pretty deep into lots of different content. Future newsletter is going to be how to navigate a vacation in this model, which I think you'll love. It's a very different way of thinking about vacations, but it allows you to really get peace and freedom to be fully away. And finally, invite me to speak to your team. I love talking about this. I mean, the masterclass today, like obviously we didn't charge for it. Like I just want this to be out there. So if it's helpful, I'd love to speak with your team. I'm fully confident that people that need the cohort will join the cohort. Anyone else, I just want to encourage them related to their relationship with time, help people be more mindful about how they focus, how they protect their mental health, how they make things happen. Would love to do that. All right, round it out. We did it, folks, in 85 minutes, less than 90. I'm grateful to you. You showed up and you gave me your time. I was watching the attendee list. We hung pretty much most people that came in the beginning are still here. You probably shut down your world. You probably shut down notifications. I'm grateful. When I was 27, I needed this. I needed someone to tell me that it could be different. I needed someone to tell me that it wasn't just about checking out or quitting my job, that I wasn't broken. It's that my habits were broken and my systems could be different. Friends, I have made more impact in the last couple of years than I did in the decade previous from this amount of focus, this amount of intensity. And it's not because I'm white knuckling, it's because the habits create the opportunity. So I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you gave me 90 minutes. I am 100% in your corner. Reach out in whatever capacity you can possibly get a hold of me. LinkedIn, email, reply to a newsletter, open up your window and just yell. Maybe I'll be in proximity. I just want to help you. I just want to help. So please reach out again. So grateful. This recording will be available. We'll send that out after. We'll also send out a survey. Would really love your feedback on ways that we can improve, even how we communicate. We definitely jam-packed a lot in. I'm very sensitive to that, but again, I believe in this content and really want to empower you with it. That is that, folks. Hope you have a great rest of your week, rest of your day, and hope to see you around soon. Thanks so much.